Hi, Mr. Bradshaw with AddSomeToYourIncome.com, and I am here to talk about how you can instantly be rich. How I became instantly rich as part of my story, and to help guide you, I'm going to kind of put some things into perspective. So let's start with who you are. That I can say you can go from wherever you are mentally about money to being rich instantly. You are watching a video. That puts you above about half of the population in the world. Let me explain for you how it happened for me. I remember driving down the interstate. Now, mind you, I'm in a teacher car. Okay, so imagine it's run down, cracks in the windshield, barely going, right? Baling twine, keeping it all together. But it's going, and it's going rather fast. My son, who was 5 at the time, says to me, "Dad, are we rich?" I kind of chuckled. It was a question that was on my mind, actually. And I had recently decided I am rich. I answer my son with a question of, "Why do you ask?" To which the 5-year-old says, "Well, there are cars next to us going faster than us." Yeah. There will be cars going faster than you, unless you're that one person. And even that one person could probably tell in ways that he'd be happier in how he could spend his or her life. Even the richest person is limited by time. At any rate, the question from my son is a very important one. Are we rich? Are you rich? So let's put it into perspective. I'm going to talk briefly about the perspective of running water, how you deal with human waste, and what your toys are. These 3 things can help determine if you're rich. First, I was sitting in an economics class, and I was learning, as you might know, I have my degree in economics, and the teacher said over and over, "You are the richest people living in the richest nation in the known history of the world." And because the teacher said it over and over, it really stuck. There were a few times that it would just be said, and it just stuck in my brain. We are the richest people living in the richest nation in the known history of the world. While that phrase stuck in my brain, it still hadn't entered into my heart. So let's perspective on whether you're rich. And let's start with how about running water. I remember in a different class, the teacher said, you are in the top 10% of the world if you have a running refrigerator. Most people in the world don't have running water unless while carrying it, they run. If you have water that you can just turn a little knob and it flows, you are rich. All right, human waste. There was a lady I read in a book where she said she was working for the Red Cross and she went to the Philippines. Not able to speak the native language of Tagalog, but there anyway. And she gets put with someone that doesn't speak English. And off they go, driving way out from civilization into the country. Get to the house, and she starts asking about going to the bathroom. And this is kind of pantomime, right? You have to imagine it. And the lady just kind of points around to the back. She goes out back. There's not even an outhouse. There's just nothing. And so she's pantomiming about, what do you do about number 2? And the lady shows her where the plastic shopping bags are. And she's confused. Until the lady ties one and throws it over the fence into the dump next door. It says the only 2 words she heard in English all week. Flying saucer! Right? So, if you have running water, if you have a running refrigerator, if your community deals with human waste better than a flying saucer, you're rich. I mentioned toys as well. So for toys, if you have toys that are better than rocks, you are rich. I remember being in third world Africa, and I'm walking down the road, and there was this girl, and she was playing with 2 rocks, and she was hitting them together and saying things. And I wasn't getting it at first. She's hitting this rock, she's saying something, and that rock hits the other rock. She picks up a third rock, and it joins in, and she's having this thing going on, and I couldn't see it. I couldn't imagine it. I couldn't put myself there. I didn't get what was happening until a boy stole one of the rocks. And then I understood. These were her toys. And he stole one of them, and she says, Nivatiku, Nivatiku, which in that language means my rock, but it sounds really close to Nivadiku, Fadiku instead of Vatiku. A D instead of a T means my spouse. And so all the adults are laughing as this girl is like, Nivatiku, Nivatiku. And they're like, oh, Nivati now, huh? Is that your spouse? All right. So, if you have toys that are better than rocks, human waste system better than rocks, your toys are better than rocks, you're rich. Human waste system better than flying saucer, running fridge, running water, these many things. You are watching a video I have created. You are rich. Let me tell you about when this happened instantly for me. I finally got it. It finally sunk in. I was sitting there reading a book. I was reading. All right? I'm rich. I can read. I'm reading this book, and in the book, I don't remember exactly what it was talking about. It was not talking about being rich. It was talking about being generous. I remember it being one of the books I was learning about generosity at the time, as I was striving to figure out why it kept showing up. The rich give. The rich give. And I knew that giving unlocked the key to gift income, as well as success in life. And it just kept bugging me, and I was really, really learning about being generous. In order to become rich was my plan. My plan was to become rich, and so I'm learning about how to be generous. This is where the accountant says, this no longer adds up, Mr. Bradshaw. And it's less about numbers and more about how you live your life. I'm reading this book, and all of a sudden, something just clicked. I remember just sitting there. I stopped reading, and my brain brought all these pieces together that I've just shared with you. I have running water. I have a refrigerator. I have food in that fridge. I have so many toys. I was brought up in a home with a silver platter. I was always taken care of. I mean, I wasn't top of the society rankings of what's considered wealthy, but we were definitely taken care of in middle-class America. I had toys better than rocks. I had a motorcycle when I was very young, and a bike before that, and so many things so well taken care of. I finally realized it. It took me till I was the age of 32 to finally realize I'm rich. You and I are rich. And this makes some people uncomfortable sometimes. Like, you can't call me rich. Rich people are terrible people. Not so. Most people, when they meet the rich, they say things like, wow, they're so normal. Wow, they're so down to earth. I didn't realize I'd get along with them so well, right? I didn't realize they'd be so human. But yeah, no amount of money is going to change you into a fairy. You got to decide. This is decision time. When you breathe in this next moment, you could be rich. When you decide, you can't be rich until you change your mind. It's all in the mind. Rich is in the mind. If I take a bite of chocolate and I say it's rich chocolate, I'm just convinced that it is rich. I could eat some almost bitter chocolate that just doesn't taste very good, and I've never had chocolate in my life, and I'll call it rich. Rich is a perspective. The amount of wealth that you have or how much money is in your bank account is one thing. Your net worth that proves who you are. Okay, that's one thing. It's not a definition that matches with whether or not you are rich. You are rich when you decide to be rich. Then all of a sudden, your ability to be generous blooms. Your ability to give to others expands. And you, as rich, having that perspective, all of a sudden, I started saying it in my life, I live like a king 300 years ago. I've got a car that if I push it with my little toenail, I've got 300 horses going down the highway. Maybe not the fastest car. The answer to my son's question is yes. We are rich. And there are people richer. There are a lot more people that are poor. There are billions and billions of people who wish they could see a video like this and get the perspective. I am rich. I look forward to seeing you on the other side.